Hello everyone, it is the early afternoon on the 23rd of May 2024. It's a nice afternoon, warm, just the way I like it. It was kind of cloudy and rainy all morning while I was out working, so I guess that worked in my favor. I haven't had a lot of time lately to work on the car, but I have a little bit of time today, so I'll bring you up to speed on what I've been working on. The biggest thing I did, and I did a shorts video which wasn't the best quality. I keep forgetting you have to hold the phone in portrait mode to do a shorts video, not landscape mode. But anyway, I spent a chunk of money at Midas muffler, and then the guy's name is Joe, and he did a fantastic job with my exhaust system. I'm very pleased. He reduced the number of muffler clamps or exhaust clamps in my system from 13 all the way down to 3, which is probably the original count, OEM count, because there's always that one on the crossover pipes between the resonators, and then at the very end here on the mufflers, holding them to the hangers at the end here behind the bumper. So he did a beautiful job with the connecting pipe. He replaced my flex pipes and got it all done in one day. It took him about 3 hours, and he takes pride in his work. That was obvious because I went and thanked him personally the next morning. And he said, yeah, I wanted to make this perfect, and he really did. He did a beautiful job, so I'll show you some detail there in a minute. The thing that I said in my shorts video, it cost about the same as it would have cost had I just gone out and bought OEM style mufflers and just bolted them in place. But in most places it's a 2 to 3 month lead time, and at Midas I was able to get it done in one day, so I decided that's worth it, you know. So I was happy to give this guy my business. He did a really nice job. The last few days, the right front window motor on my car here has worn out. The gear inside the motor, this is the original door replacement that I did last summer when I first got the car. The original door had the bullet hole in it, and the glass was shattered and all that, and I just took the regulator with the motor that it had at the time and reused it. The motor at the time seemed to work fine. It didn't occur to me to just go ahead and replace the gear while I had the door apart. Well, now I have to replace it because it's failed. So I'm going to use the motor, not the motor itself, just the gear. This came out of the left rear door that I recently replaced. The gear inside this motor is new, so I'm just going to repurpose it and get rid of the motor because the motor is no good. It gets stuck in the up position on the rear door there, so I'm not going to save it. Let's see. Today I'm hoping to receive from Tony Bolin down in Florida 2 things in one box. One is a rebuilt ATC automatic temperature control box. He does that for one of the things he does, so it's guaranteed to work. He just asked that I send mine back. He didn't charge me a core charge for it. He's also sending me a speed control servo came out of a 68 Lincoln Continental. He sent me a picture of it. It looks really nice. He doesn't know if it works or not. So he's giving it to me in trade for the one I have on this car that I know doesn't work, which is really nice of him. So it's just a hit or miss thing here. So I'm hoping it does work. As you might surmise from my comments, my repair, that one relay that I did repair the last time I worked on the car, that needed to be repaired because it wasn't working. But that wasn't enough to get the speed control working, the whole system. So when I drove the car, the system would light up, the cruise light would come on when I pressed the button on the end of the turn stock, but nothing happened. It didn't actually engage. And then when I stepped on the brake pedal, it wouldn't disengage, it wouldn't turn off. So since I've replaced or looked at everything else in the system, that pretty much leaves the servo itself, which is basically the brains of the system, the electromechanical brains of the system. So I'm hopeful that the unit that he sent me will actually work, and I'll show it to you later when it shows up. But it actually has the plate on it. Then this one's missing, the identity plate, so that'll be kind of cool to see that. I also purchased a couple things from Lincoln Mercury Old Parts Store. If you do any business with them at all, you know they're going through a transition right now. I haven't even heard if they're going to stay in business, going to liquidate, or if they're just moving. I don't think they've got a final decision on that yet, as far as I've seen. But what they've been doing to reduce their inventory is they've been having sales. So I bought they had a smattering of the fuel filters that I bought. They're kind of in the middle as far as price range goes, but I decided these are so hard to come by. I bought one just to have a spare, and it may end up going in another project car someday that I don't own yet. But at least I have one. It's an original Ford Motor Company stamp on it. It came in a Ford Motor Company box. What I find interesting about it, though, is that it's labeled in on this end, and this is actually the end that is out. That's where the filter goes. I mean, this is the filter. This is where the line goes. It goes to the carburetor, and this goes into the fuel pump. So I was able to blow air through it both ways. So I guess it's a reversible filter. I have to assume that. At least I hope that's the case. So if I ever have to use it someday. Let's see, what else? Driving this car recently, I was hoping that all the noise from the rear of the car would be gone now that I took care of that exhaust pipe stuff that were rubbing against that right rear tire. That was the main reason I took it to Midas too, was to get away from that right rear tire that was rubbing against the flex pipe. So that problem's taken care of. So when I was driving it, I noticed it has some pretty severe vibrations at certain speeds, like 45 to 55. It tends to let off at higher speeds. And there's still some noise coming back there. And just doing some searching around online, I'm pretty sure the drive shaft just needs to be balanced, because as you know, I rebuilt the CV joints on that last year. So I've got an appointment with my mechanic on the 5th of June. He has a shop down the street from him that does that. So he's going to pull out the drive shaft for me, take it down there, get it balanced, and put it back on. So I'm very hopeful that that will take care of that issue, because right now I really can't drive it at speed anyway. I can drive it around town, 30 miles an hour or whatever. That's not a problem. But to go higher speeds consistently, I've got to get that fixed. Got my $300 credit on my core return for my steering gear. That finally came through from Mark II Enterprises. They said I sent them a good core. I'm glad to hear that, because I know that the sector shaft in that core is no good and needs to be replaced. So I guess they don't consider that something that I had to give them that was in good shape. So I'm glad of that. Take you on a quick little tour of a couple things before I get started on my work today. One of the things that you can see, I've started taking apart the door here. I'm just going to pull the door panel off and get that window motor out of there and replace the gear. I don't think I'm not sure. I'll have to take the door panel off. I might have to drill my 3 holes through the door to get the motor out without having to worry about the regulator snapping at me and breaking a hand or something. So we'll get there. But something else I wanted to show you inside. I took one of my friends, for a ride in the car yesterday, and he pulled down the sun visor. I immediately noticed that this is the one spot on the entire interior of the car that I completely forgot to clean when I got it last summer. This is filthy. This is black. That's supposed to be a mirror there, remember? You could see how dirty it is. I left it dirty because I wanted to show that on my video here. So obviously I'm going to clean that up. But I just had to laugh when I saw that, because it was like, as soon as he pulled it down, the driver's side is clean. Why I never pulled this one down and clean it, who knows? I missed that important detail. So a couple things under the hood I wanted to show you. Well, I guess it's really just one thing. I discovered that after I went through all that work with the valve cover, put a new gasket on it, put all this sealer on it, I made sure it was good and tight, I still had some kind of a leak going on. I was just flustered. It finally dawned on me to check this union, this joint right here on the power steering line, and wouldn't you know it, it was leaking. It wasn't tight enough. Yet another joint I didn't tighten enough. So I tightened that down real good, and it dawned on me that the leaking that I was probably seeing the whole time was probably never motor oil. It was probably this all along. So all that work I did to replace the gasket on this valve cover was probably wasted effort. But, live and learn. So I have to take out this servo here, so when the replacement comes today, I can box it up and send it to Tony. And of course, to get the ATC box out, I've got to lower my dash panel again here and get under there and get that ATC box out, which is under there. I don't even know if you can see it or not in the video right now, but of course I'll show you that as I go through it. And I think that was all I had on my list here. So just a philosophical note, I'm learning the hard way, even at my advanced age, that sometimes it just pays to do things right the first time. A lot of people have been telling me I shouldn't have had all those clamps in the exhaust system. I should have just had it welded in the first place. And yeah, I know they're right. And something I said in my shorts video, oh yeah, I promised a tour underneath here too real quick. Pretty proud of what he did, but just looking at the end here, I mean, he did a really, really nice job. He used my tips and just cut them down, because he had to move the muffler back about 3 inches. It was way too far forward. So he centered it front and rear, and he used my tip. He just cut it down. He welded it onto the muffler. so it's one piece like the original would be, and there's just one clamp here. Even took the time to cut off the ends of the clamp here to give it a nice finished look. So it looks like that on both sides. It's just really nice. And I took some before shots too to compare with how it used to look. And then under here, the other end, where he replaced the flex pipes, you can see the replaced pipe here, nice welded to the muffler, like the original design. And then he just created a path directly to the flange. And what I was also happy about is that he did not cut off my flanges. I thought he would, and I would have been all right with that if he had. But he said no, he wanted to maintain the original, design, so it makes it easier on me. I mean, that really impressed me, So that's actually, the flange is still in place. So, I mean, he just did a really nice job. And there's plenty of room here now between the tire and the pipe. So I've driven it now, and it definitely does not rub against it anymore. So now, at some future time soon, I will take apart all the flanges, and I'm going to seal them with this high temperature Permatex muffler and tailpipe sealer, because they all had just a tiny bit of water dripping from them, so I know they're not completely sealed. So I'm going to make sure they're completely sealed with that. Don't recall if I showed you my new courtesy light switch. This is going to go on the left rear door when I get some other parts I'm waiting on. And that is it. So I'm going to start right now on this door and get that window motor repaired. A couple more things I wanted to mention too while I'm thinking about it. I can't remember if I've talked about this or not, but I bought a set of used panels from Konstantin Mendeleyev, who was parting out a 67 Lincoln. He had, I believe, 3 of the 4 door panels left, I think all but the driver's door, and I bought them from him, along with the top metal insert pieces right there that hold the switches and whatnot. Should be getting those real soon too, in the next couple days. This is the worst one on this car. This is the one that was on that passenger's door that had the window shot out on it. I mean, it's literally just falling apart. But I think I'll be able to carefully pull out the staples, because I think he told me his are black. Well, of course, these are forest green or dark green, so I want to be able to, keep the original color. And it almost looks like this is leather, but I'm not sure if it's vinyl or leather. It doesn't really matter. But I think if I carefully pry out the staples here, I might be able to transfer it to the replacement door panel, or the backing anyway. That's what I'm hoping that will happen. The other thing I would like to try and do, since I'm going to have the door apart anyway, is I'm going to see if I can adjust the door, how it fits here in the frame. I need to move it forward. This gap here is too wide, and there's whistling wind getting in through here. I mean, I know I could adjust this window frame separately from the door to take care of that probably, but the whole door needs to be adjusted anyway, because this gap here is too narrow. The rear door probably needs to be adjusted too, but I think the front door is where the bigger adjustment needs to take place. And I think to do that, all I have to do is take off the sills here, this kick panel, to get to 1 or 2 of the bolts that allow me to loosen the hinges to adjust it forward. So I'm going to attempt to do that as well while I'm at this. I also should mention, for my ex-wife's benefit, that I'm working barehanded now because those gloves is just too hot for that. So I'll just have to use grease remover to get those clean later. Kind of like my feet, got to keep them bare. So I just came back from the hardware store here. I invested in a hole saw and the mandrel to go with it. Last year when I drilled holes in my door, all I had was a drill bit, and I'm limited by my 3/8 drive here drill. I needed a bigger drill bit, so I had to make do with what I had, and it was really hard to get the hole big enough to get my nut driver in there to get the 3 5/16 bolts loose from the motor. So I decided to get the smallest hole saw they have available. It's going to drill a good size hole, but it'll be comfortably large enough for me to get my nut driver in there to get the bolts loose for the motor, and this will make short work of it. It'll be a lot nicer to work with. Alright, so here's the result of the first hole that I've drilled. You can see I drilled it a little bit low, but because the hole is large, it still left me plenty of room to get to the mounting bolt there for the motor. That's all I was after. And this thing works really nice, so I'm glad I got it. Make short work of it. So I'm going to try and aim a little better on the next one. I did use a centering punch. I just started a little bit too low. So I didn't do a real good job of lining up the holes. I probably should have made myself a template or something to make it line up a little better. However, the holes are plenty large enough that there's plenty of room to get my nut driver in there to loosen those bolts, so the window motor will just fall right out and the spring will not be an issue on the regulator. So I'm working on that now. Just noticed my package, I think from Florida, showed up from UPS. I'm going to go over there and open it up and see what goodies are in it. So even though it seems kind of garish to drill these giant holes in my door, it's going to be hidden by the door panel anyway, and it doesn't hurt the structural integrity of the door. And there's the motor. Very easy to get it out this way. No danger. Now let's go see what's in that box. So while I was out here, this is the box from Tony Bolin in Florida. It's got two things in it. Here's the cruise control servo. I can see the little data plate right there. This is the ATC box. I'll unwrap it in a minute. But he delivered one day early my door panels from Konstantin Mendeleyev. I think he's in Illinois, if I remember correctly, something like that. Oh, his address is right here. Oh, my bad, Plano, Texas. Long way from Illinois. So I'll open that a little bit later too. Let's see what's inside here. All right, I've unpacked everything now. It's a nice batch of stuff here. I'll start with the Tony Bolin stuff first. Here's my rebuilt automatic temperature control unit. All I have to do is unbolt my old one, send it back to him, and install this one. Now, initially, of course, I don't have air conditioning, but at least I can test it with this anyway to make sure the vents work correctly and the heat works correctly and all that, and I'm sure it will. Here is the speed control servo he sent me. It's a used unit. He has not opened it up. He doesn't even know if it works. So he just wants me to send in my old one to him and try this one out and let him know if it works or not. So he said he might start getting into these if there's any demand to try and get those working. So we'll see how that goes. And then the other stuff came from Konstantin Mendeleyev on Facebook. He sent me some very nice door panels. I'm really pleased with them. Especially the back. This is what I really needed, was the backing, because all of mine are bad because of the way my car was left out in the weather for such a long time with the windows down. They got ruined. And one of them has the splash shield still. It's the only one it looks like, and that's okay. Which door is that? That's a rear door, so I don't think I have one there already. That's good. The only thing I noticed, of course, was his car had the manual vent window cranks there, but that's okay because my plan, I hope I'll be able to peel this black material off and replace it with my green colored stuff on using this backing. That's my intent anyway. So this hole here will be hidden by that material. Now my car doesn't have power door locks, because these will be hidden too, because mine doesn't have the hole in the material, although eventually I might install those. But these panels are very nice condition, so I'm pleased with that. He also included 3 of the 4 top plates here that you can see. They're mainly just dirty and need to be cleaned up. They're in better shape than most of mine, and even came with lighters. This lighter I don't think is any good, but the other ones, that was probably no good either. But I don't have any working lighters now. He included the little lights that go with them and even the ashtrays. So I think I got a pretty good deal out of that. So I'm going to go finish the power window motor right now and working on that passenger door before I do anything with this stuff. But I wanted to at least unpack it, see what I got. I'm pleased. Something just occurred to me as I was thinking this through. My intent eventually, some years down the road, is to change the color of the car. The dark green is not bad, but I really want something like a presidential blue, a really dark metallic blue. Not quite black, almost black, but not quite. And I'm thinking to myself, if I do that, if I change the color, then maybe black door panels would be appropriate to go with a dark blue exterior paint scheme. I don't know. I want your guys' opinions. Tell me what you think about that. I'll put it in writing too in the top of my video when I post it as well. I want your opinions. Should I leave the door panels black as they are right now, these replacement door panels? And will that go well with a dark blue paint job eventually? Of course, if I change the paint job, the entire interior of the car is going to have to be updated too. I mean, the color. The green's going to be replaced by either black or a dark blue. I would think that a black would be fine for the interior and go okay with the dark dark blue exterior, but give me your opinions. I'm curious. I wasn't going to show anything about the motor since I've shown a lot about motors already, but I didn't think I'd ever see one of these original design motors in my lifetime again. The original design is right here. This gear is actually at one time, when it was still holding, was a solid piece of rubber holding directly bonded to this metal part here that engages with the window regulator, directly bonded to the plastic gear that's inside that engages the worm gear inside the motor. That was all one solid piece of rubber, and of course over time that rubber deteriorates and it eventually snaps like it did on this one. So I didn't know I had an original design rubberized gear in here like that. I thought that was pretty cool. The only thing I can imagine the reason they designed it that way perhaps was maybe it did a good job of shock absorption or something. I don't know really why they designed it that way, but it was quickly replaced by, this aftermarket, and I'm sure Ford used this design too, like you see it here in this gear. Now these wear out too eventually over a long period of use and time, but I never thought I'd see one of these again, one of these original designs. That's pretty cool. Here's a better view of that old style gear right here. You can see the what's left of the rubber piece here, how it was bonded directly to that metal part there. Here's the other half of it sitting there, and then the other part was bonded to the plastic that sat inside the motor. So here's the replacement here, ready to go in. A piece of, hang on a second. All right. So just sliding that back in the motor, and all I got to do is put the cover on and put that back on the in the door, and we're done with that. Hello. All right. So now you can see the window working just fine with the new gear in it. Works great. I would say elapsed time, including drilling the holes, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So it really is a time saver by drilling these holes here on the front doors. I highly recommend it. You only have to do it one time. Of course, you shouldn't have to go in to repair the motor very often, but still, I find it much safer and much quicker to do it that way. So I'm going to pause right now rather than put this back together or even attempt to realign the door. I'm going to switch gears and put that cruise control servo on. It won't take long, so I want to take this baby for a spin to test that cruise control servo out. All right, I am ready to test the cruise control. I swapped out the servo units. That's a real quick process. There's only 2 bolts and a couple of wires and hoses and cables, and you're done. So we're going to take it for a test drive and see if it works now or not. I've stored the door panels back in the box that came in. I don't want to mess with those right now because now I'm having doubts about swapping the green door panels I have now, the material, onto those, because those are in really nice condition. And since I'm getting ready to, at some point in the future, paint the car maybe a different color, maybe it's time to change the interior, although that'd be a lot of work. So anyway, I just put that away for now, put that aside. So let's see how this cruise control does. While I'm thinking about it, I have a theory about my low fuel warning light system. There may not be anything wrong with it. After some research, I found that what turns it on is something called a thermistor, which senses differences in temperature. So when I first installed it in the tank, when there was nothing in it, it was already at a stable temperature, and there was no temperature differential for it to go through to change resistance. So I'm hopeful that perhaps there's actually nothing wrong with it. So my intention is to run this thing all the way down to empty and see if the light comes on. I'll of course carry some fuel in the trunk with me for when that happens, and go from there. I'm still going to do a little more electrical testing, but that's just a theory I wanted to share real quick. Alright, I can already tell this cruise control is still not going to work. As soon as I turn the unit on, you can see the light is lit up. I noticed the cruise light was on here, so I just punched the button in here on the stalk and it turned off. I mean, I'm still going to take it out for a test drive, but I have a feeling it's still not going to work. We'll find out. Alright, so my test with the cruise control, it failed. It's doing exactly the same thing it did with the other servo. The little green light is on, even though it shouldn't be. My foot is on the brake. The brake is supposed to cancel operation of the cruise control, and that light should go out. So it would appear my problem lies elsewhere, so I'm going to keep working on that. Alright, I'm wrapping this up for the day. So the cruise control still does not work. In fact, the symptoms are exactly the same, which leads me to believe that it's unlikely that it is the servo after all, like I thought it was. So I need to focus on other aspects of it, such as the main on-off switch under the dash, as well as the push button on the turn signal stock. See if there's something going on there. So I've got more troubleshooting to do there, um, and something that I plan on doing this weekend. I have to work all day tomorrow, Friday, so I won't be out here again until this weekend sometime. I'm going to get that ATC box swapped out so I can get my old one sent back to Tony so he can build another one and have it on the shelf for the next person that needs one. So I'll get that done. That should be plug and play because his box is rebuilt, and I expect that won't be a problem. It should work fine. And then I'll also focus on trying to adjust that right front passenger door so I can put that door back together, and then I'll see what comes next after that. So I think that's it. See ya.